Yeah, it's great to have body cams, but then what do you do with what you've got on the body cam footage? There was a 13-year-old autistic boy. The mother called the police, said, you know, he might have a pellet gun. He's just having a really tough time. Police officer shows up, shoots him. He's got lifetime injuries. It costs the city $3 million in settlement. No discipline for that officer. Then you've got Ryan Outlaw, a black man who was on the floor of the Cubby Apartments elevator, bleeding to death. The police get there over 25 minutes after the call came in. Two of them stand there talking to him, not once touching him, not putting pressure on, which all of us know that's what you do when you have a major wound, and they did nothing about it. He died 2 hours later while they sat and they were waiting for an ambulance to come. Why have first responders? Well, the mayor was asked by a news reporter, so wouldn't you rather your first responders do something to help people who are having these kind of medical problems? And her response was, I expect them to keep themselves safe. That is the officers, the first responders. She sounded like the police chief at Uvalde. She said, because that's what they're trained to do. That's not what they're trained to do. They're trained to help the people of this community and provide first aid for them. There was also a body cam of a black man being attacked by a canine dog. The investigation there has been over 3 years in the police department.
Thank you, Rocky.
No discipline for that officer.
And it isn't the mayor's job to lead an angry mob based on his opinion of what happened. The district attorney checks these cases. We conflict them out to another police department who then evaluates the cases as well. Those police officers were doing what they were trained to do because the perpetrator of that stabbing was unknown, was still on the loose, and was not secure. And this kind of inflammatory and no due process approach by mayors is incredibly damaging and dangerous.
Are you letting him just like...
We're not paramedics. We have medical on the way.
He was bleeding on the floor.
Okay, the medical's here right now.
Can't breathe.
Doing anything about it.
What am I supposed to do? We have medical coming.
Salt Lake City police officers Ian Anderson and Jada Brown are both trained in first aid. Instead, body camera video shows they stood and watched as Outlaw bled and died.
Our officers, we believe, did as they were trained.
Why so confident based on what you saw with two officers sitting there for 8 minutes watching somebody bleed out in an elevator and give no first aid?
I can't make comments on a pending investigation that is happening right now.
Let me ask in more broad terms.
Let me answer you on more broad terms, and then we'll wrap up.
We spent months trying to get an interview with Mayor Erin Mendenhall about the case. Then we caught her before a city council meeting in September.
Adam, I can't continue to answer questions on a case that I can't answer questions on any longer.
Within minutes, she said she was too busy, took off her mic, and walked away.
Absolutely, I stand by these officers and what they did that day. I think they did a great job with what they had.
Do you want Salt Lake City police officers to be able and willing to give first aid?
I want our officers to be safe. That's their job.
You may respond, but can you do it quick? We are running out of time.
I'll do this really quickly.
A response
this
to a
case
response.
never went to the DA's office. That is a fabrication. And we know that this man died while those officers stood there, and while they were standing there, they called in, there's a transcript of it, to dispatch saying the scene is safe for medical to arrive. And that was never their excuse. They said they didn't provide him aid because they were afraid the elevator door was going to shut. They let a man die because they couldn't pull a man out between two of them, or one of them stopped the elevator door from closing while the other one do what we all as passersby would do, and that is apply pressure to try to save this man's life.
Our police are not passersby.
If I saw something like this going on, man, heads would roll.
Rocky Anderson used to be the mayor of Salt Lake City and plans to run again. He's also a civil rights attorney who has handled wrongful death cases.
I believe the responsibility of a police officer is first and foremost the well-being of the public. That includes caring for individuals who may be suffering life-threatening injuries. We are often the first ones there. And in fact, fire doesn't respond frequently until a police officer declares the area safe and secure. Whose responsibility if it's not that of a police officer? We have a duty to engage in life-saving activity. Every officer in Salt Lake City carries with them the ability to do minimal first aid. Thinking that somebody would die while others watched, while a police officer watched, is horrific and irresponsible and not my expectation for a police officer. My responsibility now is to evaluate police departments across the country to determine what is causing disparity in the outcome, what is causing use of force. One of the things that is most prevalent and really one of the most problematic things that we have in policing today, not only in Salt Lake but across the United States, is the lack of accountability. And I'm not talking unfair accountability. I'm talking about why did you engage in the behavior that you did and what was the purpose of it? And when that behavior is inappropriate or wrong, such as we've seen recently, action needs to be taken. There's two separate processes. There's an administrative process, one whether or not somebody should work as a police officer, and a criminal process. Those two are independent of one another. When a police chief relies on a county attorney, a district attorney, or a city attorney to do their job and make a determination, that's inappropriate. And vice versa. Accountability starts with the person who says, "You work for me."